think the ultimate challenge for banks right now is the ability to take the data they have, instead of making great reports for internal use, to apply this data towards great experiences for the consumer. We've always had a wealth of data. We always have the trust of the consumer, and now it's a matter of applying that trust, that data, to a better customer experience. And that better customer experience is usually going to be applied against digital channels instead of against the channels we've normally used. The only way retail banking is going to survive is to make this major adjustment in the usage of data, to make it look as if, or to replicate the type of experience that they're getting through digital retailers, through digital channels already. The consumer's demanding a higher level of service, a higher level of personalization, and more contextual engagement with their financial institution. Financial institutions can't do that without applying the data they have, without trying to find more data, and actually using that to dramatically improve the customer experience. Technology and retail banking are coming together as one. Again, using the data that we have to apply it towards digital technologies. And digital technologies, both on the internal side of the bank, where we're using it to do great analytics, to apply some robotics and AI internally to improve the process and to really digitize a bank more than just a digital channel like a mobile phone, but to really digitize the entire experience, to change forms, to change processes, to change functions in a way that dramatically improves the cost structure to replicate what some of the fintechs are trying to achieve or are achieving, but also take that to the consumer. So we're not just talking about mobile phones and maybe smart watches. We're talking about digital things that we aren't even aware of today. I personally don't believe that the phone is going to be the ultimate device. It may be something that's embedded. It may be an eyeglass. It may be in a contact lens. But what we have to do is we have to be ready for that technology. We've got to be ready for the Internet of Things. We've got to be ready for devices that are going to be voice activated. Banking is going to be in the center of that. And if they're not, there's simply going to be a utility that's in the background of somebody else's experience. So we need to decide as an industry, are we going to take hold of the technology that consumers are demanding today and apply it in financial services? Or are we going to sit on the sideline and simply be an application that goes behind the scenes of somebody else's technology? You know, if we look at exciting trends, there's a lot of them, and some of them are probably more exciting to the people within the industry than they are to the people outside the industry. So I may say from inside the industry, the most exciting trend or potential trend is the application of data. And I keep on coming back to data because when you look at the ability to move forward as an industry, it really is going to depend on the ability to use data to make a better customer experience. But when I'm talking about the most exciting trend to me, it's probably voice. The ability to use voice to transact, to interact, to engage, and to deploy services. The ability to go, for instance, in your car and do your banking while you're driving without having to think about the process involved, but make it very human-driven through AI and through other technologies where you'll simply say, make sure you spend transfer $20 to Dave today. The interaction, if it's regularly done, they're going to know who Dave is and how it should be transferred and what account it's going to be. But maybe I wake up in the morning and my Alexa device says, good morning, Jim. Here are your financial holdings. Here are the investment services that are having meetings today. Here's some changes you should make in your portfolio. By the way, you have a lunch today with John. Do you want us to order an Uber car to go with that? And it's supposed to rain today, so we're going to remind you before you leave to bring your umbrella. Do you want to make a reservation at the same restaurant that you have in the past? Or do you want another one that's in the same area? Or do you want another one altogether? By the way, tonight your wife said she wanted lasagna for dinner. Do you want us to deliver the recipe and the ingredients to your doorstep along with what else you need in your pantry and your refrigerator? And by the way, we'll take care of all that through the normal means of transactions in the payment. Now you'll notice in that the technology is all voice driven. It is activated from the device to the person as opposed to the person to the device. It's preemptive. It knows how I think. It knows what I want to do. It knows my schedule. It integrates my schedule with everything else I have to do in my day. It makes my life easier. And if you can make my life easier, I'm going to be more apt to stay with the financial institution or whoever provides that integration. So the question is going to be, is banking going to be the center of my life? Or is it simply going to be a sidebar to a bigger conversation that's driven maybe by Apple, Amazon, Facebook, or Google? So the question is, the exciting part of this is, I think voice is going to have the biggest change in the near term. I'm not sure if it's going to be all within 12 months. But I think the technology is there today, the capabilities are there today, the demand is there today, the consumer's getting used to it. And really, when you look at autonomous driving, autonomous cars, it's really about accident avoidance. The beauty of voice and the beauty of data and the beauty of new technologies is the avoidance of mistakes on my financial side. To be able to give me the GPS view of the future, as opposed to what I'll call the rear view mirror view that we currently have, which says, this is what's happened to your accounts. I want to know, what should I be doing? How am I going to get the best value for my dollar? Where is my relationship going to be? And how are you going to make my life easier? It's when you look at innovation and you look at it globally, I'm a little biased. I don't believe we do very well in the innovations field in the U.S. In fact, I just wrote something for Efma that talked about the lack of innovation in the U.S. And I don't think there's a lack of innovative minds, but we tend to move in lockstep and we do more of an evolution rather than a revolution in the United States. A lot of reasons for that. I think most importantly is we have a very stable, old financial services industry. We have a lot of old bankers. I was a banker myself, and I would be an old banker if I was still in the banking industry. So the movement in doing innovation is really not as much of a formal part of the process. When I look at the most innovative institutions in the U.S. or in Canada, a lot of them are the smaller banks or they're banks owned by foreign companies. So I think BBVA is a fairly innovative firm, but they're not a U.S.-based firm. I think U.S. Bank is a very innovative firm in the way they look at innovation and they build from within. And that's a good example. And USAA is certainly a great example. When you look at Europe and you look at the companies that continually win the awards for Efma or for any other organization, you'll see that a lot of them are coming from what I'll call developing financial countries. You look at Africa, you look at Turkey, you look at Poland, you look at some of the other areas where a lot of the innovation is taking place. You keep on hearing the same names of companies, and a part of it is because there's not as much of an established environment. You don't have technology that was the back office that was built in the 1970s, which is 3/4 of the banks in the U.S. Their back office was all built in the 70s. It's hard to build new innovation on old foundations. It's like trying to put a turbo in a gas-powered, an old gas-powered car. It's very difficult. It doesn't meld very well. I also think there's a lot of competition in the European countries to be first at things. At this conference today and yesterday and again tomorrow, we're going to see companies from countries like Italy and as I mentioned, Poland and other countries that are really competing against each other to say who can innovate more aggressively. There's really not that kind of template in the United States. So I think what's different is I think also the fact that you can innovate and impact a smaller area makes it so it's a little bit easier than if you're doing it against a country or if you're a small firm. And we have 6,000, 9,000 very small banks in the United States. It's hard for them to even keep up on compliance, let alone innovation.